Oh, I forgot to add us to the screen.
That was very abrupt. We have not mastered our intro exactly.
Nah, we need people. I mean, we're just two people living socialist lives, doing our best with no funding, nothing. We got nothing.
Living our best lives. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday. Cheers to a good show. We could all use some happiness right about now.
Yeah, so I try to match my beer of the week, and I always, like an idiot, buy a green beer, and we have a green screen here.
I love it.
We being me and my cat, obviously.
The royal we. What is your beer? What is it?
Monkey Knife Fight. I thought kind of fit the political world that we're in right now. So
it feels like that meme of let them fight. Like,
yeah, exactly. When two people you hate are fighting,
are together.
This is not to put Ukraine in the middle. Sorry, Ukraine, but yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, we're not saying we hate Ukraine. That's not what we're saying. Just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. I am having an issue today with the synapses in my brain. The words are not coming to me. I'm feeling a little frustrated. So I might be referring to my online thesaurus at some point during the stream here.
Well, you know me, so we might have to go to the chat to fill in the words, because I'm going to struggle for the words for sure.
It's a funny thing people talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's weird as an introvert, because like the first few times I was on shows, like a Jimmy Dore show, for example, I would chew on my thoughts. Like, what do I want to say? And I would just sit here, and it was like 10 times longer pause than I realized I was doing in real life. So I trained that out of me. But since I trained that out of me, I don't have my words like I normally do. So I blame the public for demanding introverts talk.
It reminds me, we lived in Italy for a while when I was younger, and when I was learning Italian, I would come up with phrases, and I would just like have those phrases. So anything anybody asked me, I would find a way to lead us back into that. So I could just say my one phrase that I knew had all the proper grammar. So yeah.
Come si dice questo in Italiano. That was my go-to. Because then you don't have to know anything. It's just, how do you say this in Italian?
Exactly. That's good. Brilliant. That is good. All right. I mean, should we talk about our weekend? Should we talk about, we had a little bit of an event for ourselves with our podcast. We got an alert from YouTube last Thursday. They took down our show. They said that we had a strike against us. We violated their terms of service, our last week's show, which was, did not see that coming, where we talked about all of the right-wing white supremacist and actual neo-Nazi groups around the world. And we also talked about the eugenics that are being sort of like pushed on our country right now as we do away with every single COVID protection. And they pushed that together and thought that we were calling they said they were taking down our show for medical misinformation.
Right, which clearly was bullshit. That was not medical misinformation. And we were advocating for masks. And the telling part to me is that you filed an appeal immediately.
Right.
And they got back to you. And how fast was it before they got back to you?
3 minutes. Yeah.
So 3 minutes later, they're nope. We looked at it. We
stand by our decision.
Yeah. We stand by our decision.
Yeah.
And then the only reason, so I don't know. Who cares?
Well, you're talking. I mean, we can. Yeah, but go ahead.
But the nice thing about having a big platform on Twitter is you can raise some hell, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease, which is always the case. So I tagged YouTube in a few complaints, calling them idiots or whatever I did. I don't know. It's all I do these days is call people idiots. But
yeah, well, you can cast a wide net with that.
Right. Just copy and paste that on every tweet to the Democratic Party. But so
they reversed their decision. Yeah.
Yeah, it got their attention, and they waited a week and reversed their decision. Although, clearly no one's going to go back and watch the episode. So their automatic system has a cost. I mean, it's not
right. It silences you one way or the other.
Right. And how many people have a platform? Like I have 60,000 followers or so. So, you know, I can get people to raise hell about an issue enough to make them go, this is a bad look for us.
Yeah.
But if you had like 2,000 followers and you tag them in and like the tweet got like 10, 15 retweets, they're not going to look at it. YouTube's not going to respond to you on Twitter and say, we're going to come back and fix this. So,
well, anyway, we're pulling the episode entirely. It's our Black album. It was the most brilliant episode we've ever done. So you'll just have to take our word for it.
They couldn't handle the truth.
I know we're going to get into this as we always do, but it is just really amazing how quickly discourse can be shut down because of putting in a Nazi there. And I guess the assumption was that we were saying that any restrictions would like equating that to being a Nazi, but also like that should be allowed to be said even if you disagree with it. Okay, fine. So like I don't even understand why that was so worrisome for them.
Yeah, and as rightfully people said, well, it's probably the Nazi in your title. Okay, I agree that that's why they got us, but then they flagged us for medical misinformation. So they made that leap on their own, entirely algorithm driven, because nobody looked at this shit.
Of course, right. But that's
I do like to think about them sitting around watching our show, like start to finish. Like somebody might have had to do that. They probably clicked through like every 10 minutes or something. I don't know. Vanguard, love you guys.
Vanguard, hi Vanguard and Jill and Mary and Saul and Ware and everybody. Thanks for showing up tonight. I had a friend when I first moved to LA, and he wanted to be a producer, and his job was going through porn that was going to be screening in Asia, and he had to take away any shot that had pubic hair in it. So he had to flag that was his. So
as someone not a fan of pubic hair, I'm like perfectly fine with that. But I would hate that job. That's an awful job.
Imagine whoever had to watch our show and find out if we were calling not COVID restrictions, saying that was like being, ruled by Nazis. We were sorry for you. It could have been so much more exciting.
And they, even after all of it, they got back with, we were wrong, but you got a copyright strike.
Yes, I know. On your show,
thanks.
That makes no money. We did use something. Yeah. The other end.
We didn't have that flag until they watched it again. So because they watched it again, they're like, we found some other shit. You motherfuckers.
Ask us to watch your show one more time. Go ahead.
You're not innocent.
All right. Well, before the world and before total Armageddon, should we get to our wheel and see if we can cover some topics
shots
of the week?
Oh,
yeah, take
cover
some shots.
Topics.
Yes, okay. Or take some shots. I've already had a couple.
I cut you off. My bad.
Now I'm
there you are. Here, you end the video this time. Let's see if you can do it. Time it. I don't know when to end this video ever.
Really? You asked me to do something way too. I was so concerned with the fact that I unmuted myself and everybody could hear us, and then you gave me a job. I'm gonna let you deal with that. You can't spring that on me so late. My brain can barely function. All right.
Let's do the.
What do we got this week? We got Sake Bomb.
My favorite.
That is Pat's favorite. Red Scare, War Games, the Endemic, the end of COVID, and Good versus Evil. Let's spin that wheel.
That one's wide open. That could be anything.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, what? I was so happy. All right.
I was really looking forward to starting with a shot.
I know. It's our favorite way to start.
I'm going to have one anyway, just because it's Sake Bomb.
Cheers.
It's my favorite
I'm never
category.
I already filled mine. Woohoo. All right. Cheers.
Sake. Let's go full Sake Bomb and start it out with what we need here.
She came in like a sake bomb. Yeah, she's nothing like that robot bomb. questions.
Respectingly.
She's our
I love that part.
secretary.
This may be hard to believe. We don't spend a lot of time talking about or thinking about President Trump here. Former President Trump, to be very clear.
That actually is
Coming-
incredibly hard to believe because they
Coming
do
soon to
always bring up
MSNBC.
Trump.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's just get into it. How did Jen Psaki deal with our current gas and oil crisis in regards to this war? Here we go.
The best thing we can do is reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and foreign oil because that will help us have a reliable source of energy so that we're not worried about gas prices going up because of the whims of a foreign dictator.
Right, and you guys think that asking Saudi Arabia or Venezuela or Iran is reducing our dependence on foreign oil?
That's actually, I just outlined each of those specific scenarios and the range of discussions that we're having with each of those countries. I don't think anybody is advocating for Iran to continue acquiring a nuclear weapon, perhaps except for the former president who pulled us out of the deal. Go ahead.
Did she bring up the former president?
That's
'Cause
so
I thought
crazy.
she-
They don't think about
Unlike
it.
what we thought, they don't do that.
Also, good news for anybody who's not following current events. We did not get right back into the Iran deal at all. We're still not back in it. So I don't know what she's talking about. But
Yeah, that had nothing to do with reality there at all. But she outlined
At
all
all.
her points that she's not going to talk about is what she did.
yeah.
But so the important part is of that question, which was a valid question, of course, is that you don't go from you don't lower your dependence on foreign oil from a dictator by cutting off Russia and then go to Saudi Arabia. And we're trying to get Saudi Arabia to give us money. Obviously, Saudi Arabia is bombing Yemen and, doing all kinds of disastrous things.
Yeah. Yeah. But somehow they're preferable now to Putin, which is absurd. And also, I know so many of us have talked about this, but this could be, instead of the moonshot to cure cancer in a country where 28 million people don't even have health insurance and wouldn't have access to that anyway, this could be our Green New Deal moment, right? To just really invest in getting ourselves off of fossil fuels. We wouldn't have to worry about the dictators that we don't want to get oil from. But the problem is, as we know, it really has nothing to do with any of that because we're never going to, in this country that's so ruled by our own oligarchs, fight the people who are making a ton of money off of gas and oil.
100%. And gas prices are going up. 7 in 10 polls support a ban on Russian oil. So this is what the propaganda has led to, is like we're just like, I understand we want to get off of fossil fuels, but the only people paying the cost on this, it affects poor people disproportionately.
It's a regressive tax.
Don't understand. Like,
yeah,
the same week that we're all asked to pay more for gas, Biden is pushing getting rid of working from home. He's trying to get us all to show up at work, and COVID's blowing up, but show up to work and pay more for gas. And
minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour or something. So your gas is almost as much as what you're going to make an hour for a gallon.
It's going to pass it for people. It is going to pass their minimum wage.
But just a reminder that before Russia invaded Ukraine, oil company revenues were up astronomically since last year. So it had nothing to do with this invasion. They're going to try and backspin it and retrofit it and say it's because of this. It is not. So, but they're going to continue this lie and say that we all have to do our part for the war in Ukraine. And it's completely dishonest.
100%.
Yeah. And she is being courted by MSNBC, exactly what Vanguard says, to have her own show, which is such a fantastic example of the revolving door, right? Like she is towing the line and carrying water.
Oh, you cut out.
Anybody else? Did you disappear too, or just me?
It was just you on my end, but I have no idea what the
I'm going to blame my inability to access my words today on my lagging internet, and just hope money.
Right.
Everybody accepts that. Yeah, but it's disgraceful, right? Because all we're doing is destroying our planet and using this, right away. They used this war as a plea to end deregulation and end any kind of regulations on drilling and fracking to try to up their permits. We're just going to destroy our world so that these people can hoard all the money.
Well, this is a moment that could totally be, you could couch everything progressive around this moment if you wanted to. If you believed in the Green New Deal, if you believed in getting off fossil fuels, this could be, like you said, this could be our moonshot to energy efficiency, energy independence. You could put energy independence from Russia, if you want to frame it around that, around supporting green issues. And that's what a Bernie would do, we would hope. But we're not getting that. We're getting the opposite.
With any vision. Yeah. Instead, it's just another excuse to take everything before you go bunker down.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
Well, and you've got Biden framing his presidency, bragging about it around being a wartime president. This could revive his presidency. Well, if you push the issues that people support, like the Green New Deal now, instead of just sucking it up, and if anyone who thinks $10 an hour gas is going to win Democrats, Democrats
and telling people to do their part, like you cannot tell people to do their part now when the Democrats have done nothing for their base. You keep asking people to sacrifice for what? Like, stand in line to vote for us. Do your part. Stay home. We're not going to pay you to stay home. They're still talking about when are they going to, start student payment loans again. As you said, get back to work, get back to the office, because we have to keep those real estate money coming in.
Yeah.
And
it's
for
an absolute
what?
Best.
Yeah.
I think we should just spin the wheel.
Yeah, spin the wheel. I need a shot.
Yeah, baby.
They keep teasing us.
I know, it's so
what the hell?
So close.
The hell?
Yeah. So that, everything this week and for most of our show always is about the manufacturing of consent and creating narratives to get people on board. But this Red Scare, which started with Hillary, really, when she lost, and anybody who was against her was a Putin puppet and a Putin apologist, and creating him as the singular evil in the world. And so now with this, horrifying invasion of another country, which is a war crime, and it's awful and it shouldn't be happening. But there are regular Russian civilians who are now, having all the wrath of the West taken out on them. So what do we have?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the sanctions, sanctions are bad. People need to understand we're punishing another country. The population of Russia is getting punished because of a dictator / capitalist / corrupt oligarch, whatever you want to call him.
Yep.
It's not
who
that
was our guy.
That,
he was our guy.
It's not that he's good, but like the people are being punished severely, and we're turning that into, we're going to decimate their economy over there. Is our master plan. That's literally our master plan.
That's our master plan. Hoping that they will rise up against their leader.
Right. Their leader who has never given a shit about what his people think.
Right.
Like one
iota. Look at the way our cops treat our uprisings here. It's even worse there. And think about if our regular people were destroyed for the actions of the people in power for every single one of our invasions of another land. I mean, we've been doing this for the past, 60 years?
Yeah. And I mean, that's I hadn't really thought about that, but at some point we're losing power at such a record pace right now that we could get, sanctions. I mean, it's not beyond the pale that it could happen to us.
I mean, all of our money is online right now, right? So Apple Pay is taken off. They can't access that. They can't access credit cards. They can't access bank accounts. There's a chance that this will be a real geopolitical realignment, right? With China and Russia and the global South. But the fact that there is so much glee among people in the West to hurt just regular Russian citizens, I think should sort of horrify us all.
I agree. Let's show the clip of Swalwell.
All right.
My God.
Yes, on the table should be sanctioning Putin personally, completely taking them out of the European and international banking system, which is known as SWIFT. Frankly, I think closing their embassy in the United States, kicking every Russian student out of the United States, those should all be on the table. And Vladimir Putin needs to know every day that he is in Ukraine, there are more severe options that could come.
I mean, also, like, then what's the objective? Like, how do we ever get to peace? Because the truth is, that's not their goal. If we get to if we want peace, then all of his donors and the military-industrial complex and all the Pentagon, everybody, that their payday just disappears. Which is why there's nobody who's talking about what are the off ramps.
Yeah, well, you can't even hear a counter position to any of this. Like, literally nobody on MSNBC or CNN, almost ever. Like, usually with an issue, they'll have somebody on to put a counterpoint here and there, but it's drowned out because it's one counterpoint versus 50 times they show the standard opinion, and
Right.
it's viewed as some radical opinion.
Yeah.
But you don't even hear that one voice on CNN or MSNBC. I mean,
No.
We have other clips and other categories that show some of that, but
Yeah. But so
I
here's
got-
just some, like, there was a teacher just fired for just trying to present the history around how this Russia-Ukraine conflict occurred. And that teacher was fired because he was spreading Russian propaganda. And that's how the news framed it. It's talking about this teacher, the substitute teacher, being fired for spreading Russian propaganda, for talking about the history that led up to the invasion. We have, oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to continue with the same thing. So we got book burning, Soviet era books are gone.
Like liberals were cheering this on. Book burning is all of a sudden good because it's Soviet era books being burned by Ukrainians.
Yep. And then you got a Russian opera singer sacked for thought crime. Okay. So she's gone.
This young kid who's a piano prodigy, not allowed to participate in the Montreal Symphony Orchestra anymore. We have this guy, Michael McFaul, get on the right side of history, he says to just regular Russians. They need to feel the pain of their passivity in allowing Putin to continue his heinous war. There are no more innocent. Yeah, sorry.
Well, it goes into the next tweet, but I mean, there are no more innocent, neutral Russians anymore. Like, the idea that these people have any control over what happens. I mean, Putin doesn't have fair elections. They can't vote him out. They can't, they're calling on the citizens to, like, somehow assassinate, remove him. They're spreading all this, they're spreading all this propaganda that he's insane and he's evil and vile and corrupt but he has been that same exact person this entire time.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't seen him mentally fall off a cliff like Joe Biden mentally has fallen off a cliff, but that doesn't mean Biden isn't calling for vile stuff like attacking. Well, that's a whole nother topic, but he isn't mentally unstable. He's the same ghoul he's always been.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And you're seeing exactly this. People wonder how Americans supported Japanese internment camps, and we're living it. I mean, it really is exactly, I remember as a kid looking back at that and thinking, how could anybody have allowed that to happen? Looking at the civil rights movement, thinking, how was that in this country just so recently? Going through 9/11 and Bush lying us into war and feeling completely powerless in our country. And just to have so little empathy for the suffering of other people. And there's actually a lot, I don't know, thousands of people have been arrested in Russia for protesting this war.
Yeah,
Right?
they absolutely are in the streets trying to do everything. And when we get in the streets, like, we're not at the same risk they are, because they are
Right.
literally, controlling
Especially if you're
information.
white.
Yeah. Well,
Especially if you're white. Yeah.
eh,
But yeah.
Yeah. that was sarcasm. Oh, you're cut off again. So I'll just tell you some stories about Lila until she's back. Lila.
I'm seeing myself.
Hello.
I don't know why I keep disappearing.
It's all right. I told him some stories that were hilarious.
They're good.
You.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
I can't wait to
great.
play it back if this episode isn't
know.
flagged. All right.
Anyway.
But yeah, I think we need to pull out of this kind of the way we treat people and the xenophobia, I think, will never lead to anything to a brighter future. So I wish that our leaders would have a little more compassion for regular people.
Yeah,
But the problem is it's so hard for them to punish the oligarchs, because if they did that, they would incriminate themselves and everybody they do business dealings with too, right? It's the same reason that they couldn't impeach Trump on his very clear-cut violations of mixing power and money. It's because they're all doing it. And so the same thing is happening right now. There are all these carve-outs for certain oligarchs around the world.
Well, I mean, we're going to get into it, I think, with another topic, but I mean, Panama game, Panama games,
the Panama Papers and the Pandora Papers. Yeah.
But
we're all having a little
we're
brain
just
fog
ignoring all this corrupt. I mean, I'll say all these topics are so close that I'm like,
I know. Okay. All right. Let's spin the wheel.
This other stuff.
Let's spin the wheel. I'm
I
bringing
think
us down today.
A shot or two will help me clarify.
Please. Let's
Yeah, baby.
spin the wheel, guys.
All right, here's the deal.
The end of the show is going to be crazy.
No, I'm rejecting this one.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm rejecting it. I'm going to use my
Your one
Yeah,
Trump
baby.
card. Whatever we got.
You're a
Call it a
jackpot.
shot.
Wait, you didn't take away the sake bomb.
Did I not take away sake bomb?
Remove
damn
the
it.
sake bomb. That could have been our shot.
It could have, but
She came in like a sake bomb.
Spin
sorry,
the
that's
wheel.
that's a
Let's go.
short one.
All right.
Yeah, baby.
Still didn't remove it.
I still didn't remove it. There we go. There we go.
All right. Thank you. Thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers.
To the citizens of Ukraine and the citizens of Russia, we salute you. Not the Nazis on either
Not
side.
the Nazis
We
on
don't
either
support
side.
either side of the Nazis.
Yeah, baby.
Pouring my next shot. 'Cause it's gonna land on shot.
Yes.
Yo,
Yes.
now we're
Wait.
talking.
All right. This is going to make my brain start
Yeah, you'll find the
working
words
better.
now.
Yeah, I'm going to find all my words, or I won't
I'm
care
gonna
anyway.
say shitlib every sentence or something. 'Cause I love the PR online, like, oh, shitlib. The people who say shitlib are bad, like from former leftists. Like, come on, you're gonna be.
Yeah.
What is wrong
Yeah.
with you?
So dismissive.
Mm.
It's intended to
shitlib's
be.
Is a beautiful word.
It
That's
just sums
accurate.
it up perfectly.
Did you do your shot?
Yeah, I did it right away.
Okay.
My mouth
Jill
is
drank
all
too much
funky.
vodka. Good for you, Jill. I mean, not good for you.
No such
Jill.
thing. But playing
I
a lot
love
of Waylon and that's good. That's fun.
Cheers.
Yeah, baby.
This is my kind of show. I actually
There we
feel my
go.
brain getting smarter as we're going. I needed this. It's been a rough, I haven't slept in so many days. I know we're all feeling it. And I'm so lucky. I'm in a, house with a family and all that. But this is the crazy, like, I thought that Biden, I haven't drunk it yet, but I thought Biden, as awful as he is, and I knew he would be, I did think he'd be like a smidge better than Trump. if just for the tweets, I was like, all right, it'll be all the same, but I did not think we would be getting into World War III. I didn't.
Yeah. Well, the difference is under Biden, he's under pressure to fulfill some sort of fake leftist promises, which is better than the right, which is under pressure to abolish all these leftist ideals. But he has given no fuck about any of these leftist policies he said in his platform he was going to do. So in a way,
calls
like
him out on it in the media. There's no pushback.
None. And that's the biggest issue with whether it's Ukraine. I mean, the COVID stuff is insane. Like everyone's going back to school with no masks and they're like testing differently. I mean, it's just fucking nuts, but let's have a shot and move on to the next thing.
I took my shot already. I thought you had
done you did?
I did. I think that's my fourth shot. That's a lot. All right. I like all the music going here. We should do one show where it's just like music and alcohol, fun drinks. We need to do a fun drink one. All right.
Fun drink. Yeah, that's a good idea.
A theme show.
Yeah, baby.
There's only one shot left. Should I not remove? I feel like not removing it.
Yeah, don't remove it.
It's too early to remove that shot.
Another part of the whole, like the Red Scare thing, people have been pouring out all their Russian vodka. I mean, it's absurd.
The signs.
It's so ridiculous. Or the poutine, they're like renaming it. It's like the Freedom Fries thing all again.
Well, and have you seen the bar signs? Like, we will no longer serve Russian, white Russians.
God, I mean, it's stupidity, honestly.
So, but this is where older folks, not to be ageist, but they tend to believe, they watch mainstream media so much that there is a big gap between what my parents' generation thinks and what my generation thinks and what young people think.
Right.
Because they're so, if you get all your news from mainstream media, you are not getting any counterpoint. And by counterpoint, I don't mean to say that this invasion is good by Russia, because it's fucking awful.
Right.
It's awful, but you're not getting any history behind it. You're not understanding where the US came in and
the context
and created
of how
this tension.
Happened. Right.
Like the context is even banned. That's the problem.
I mean, a teacher was fired for just talking about history. And they've made that, what I keep see happening is they will put facts and truth in Putin's mouth. So they'll say, well, Putin is accusing NATO of expanding. Like, that's not something that actually happened, right? So they sort of like chip away at what the truth is by making it something that was observed by our enemy, basically. Yeah.
So many layers of Russia phobia. Like,
yeah.
It's just become this like thing you have to support. Like, it's like, I mean,
it's a lot like Bush, right? It's like the way it was with. Sorry.
No, I was about to say something controversial. So let's move on.
Why don't you do the private chat? Yeah, I need to know. All right, are we moving on?
Oh, I didn't.
Anyway, it's the whole.
Did we land on a shot, or did I just pour a shot for no reason?
We are spiraling today. We are spiraling. All right.
Freedom. Hey, we are privileged
really just
enough.
Feel like 20 years ago, right? I mean, it does. This feels exactly like the lead up and the beginning of the Iraq War. You're with us or you're against us, and there's no ability to have any thoughtful, nuanced discussion.
Well, think about the Iraq War and the bands. I mean, I forget the name of the band.
The Dixie Chicks.
Dixie Chicks were outlawed forever for being against the Iraq War.
Yep. And worse is right now, I feel like even people on the nominal left, not really left, but liberals, Democrats, it's bipartisan, this. And so there's no room for discussion. And you're a Putin apologist if you talk about anything that led to this, where we could be at all culpable. And, it feels a lot like when we talk about 2016 and the DNC rigging the primaries, and people are like, oh, move past it. But you can't move past it if you don't address it and fix it. And then it keeps happening, right? Because then it happened again in 2020. Then it happened again to Nina Turner. It happened to India Walton. It's like, you know, the reason that we can't move past it is because it keeps happening. So if we don't fix these geopolitical issues and address what NATO really is. I mean, I think that's the other thing is I think a lot of people in older generations think of NATO as some like kumbaya group of people who are just like defensive and anybody should be able to join NATO. It's not like joining the European Union, which would also come with its share of military protection. But NATO is specifically military. I mean, it's not, but I think there's a misunderstanding of what it means to join NATO.
Well, and people don't understand that it's an aggressive posture for NATO. Like they think of NATO as some peacekeeping organization.
Right.
But posting up right next to the borders of Russia is not a peacekeeping organization.
Of course.
And on top of that, they have no ability to actually keep the peace and prevent Russia from doing what it's going to do. So all of America is suddenly behind this idea of like, send $1 bazillion to everyone in Ukraine and let's fight this war. But all that's going to lead to, because NATO won't get involved, Ukraine is not going to join NATO. Russia is going to bomb the shit out of all the people in Ukraine. Awful, terrible, they're vile people. But that's the outcome. And that outcome was predicted like 10 years ago.
I mean, like 25,
20
honestly.
years
Like
ago.
they've been talking about it. Yeah.
So this was the predictable outcome, which doesn't make his stance correct, Putin's stance correct that he's moving in there. But we know this heightened this left. It's USA versus Russia, not Ukraine defending themselves, because we are the one pushing Ukraine to have this posture.
Right. Let's spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel.
All right.
All right. We still have a sake bomb there. Dang it.
Do we have it? I'll play it forever.
No.
Yeah, baby.
Sake bomb. All right, I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna remove it.
Thank you. It's time.
I won't even torture people watching. I love that.
Yeah, baby.
Oh my God. Happy Wednesday.
Oh, I already
fellas.
poured my shot.
It's my,
Cheers.
by the way, this is not a political statement, but my vodka was made in the good old US of A.
Oh,
Which, yeah.
Well, my cat, who is semi-famous, not really, but he was Peter Dow. Remember when Peter Dow? Well, people don't even remember when Peter Dow was awful. I had the parody Peter Douche, and the cat was his gay rescue cat of color, because Peter Dow like used his wife as like, I'm married to a
person of color.
Yeah, it was awful the way he used it. So
Right.
But my cat is a Russian blue.
Oh, look at that.
So do I have to ban my cat? I mean, what do I have to do? Like, this is the world we're in right now.
If you're really American, yes, you should.
Cheers
I
to
forgot to do my thing.
Cheers to my cat. I'm not going to feed it. I'm going to put in sanctions on my cat.
Cheers, Pablo. We had
Good
two
luck
cats
with the
when I was
neighbors.
growing up, Pushkin and Kakashka, Russian.
Did you really? You seriously had Pushkin and that is going to be used against you by the shit libs right there.
Yep, cancel me.
If they ever find this video. We're going to be banned though.
Yeah, last week it was Nazis, and this week it's because there's a Russian influence in our lives.
There is.
All right.
What do we got the wheel?
Oh, did we land on
wheel?
that? No.
No, we didn't. But we
All right.
should.
Yeah, baby.
I need to grab another beer.
Oh, what? All right. Don't you know it's the end of the pandemic? COVID is over.
That's a wrap. We did it.
That's a wrap on COVID. So we're going to get into all the different graphics we have, but as you know, because I hate my life, I listen to In the Bubble every week, just a little bit to kind of see what Andy Slavitt and company are saying. And he had somebody on today, and they were talking about how, listen, COVID's going to be over when the American public says it is, and the American public just has no appetite for it anymore. They're ready to move on. They see that the people who are dying are people who didn't get vaccinated or who are older. It's time for people to get back to schools. So basically, that is what's happening. But they inverted the cause and effect because Biden and the CDC have been pushing that COVID's over for the last 4 months. So, and because they've relaxed all of the restrictions and they've opened everything up and like, I don't know, is there testing anymore? We have no way to deal with this pandemic that is still killing between 1,500 and 2,000 people a day. A quarter of whom are fully vaccinated, by the way.
And it's blowing the fuck up already, but we're not talking about it because we're talking about Ukraine, which also takes people's attention off of COVID. So that
World War III.
The news doesn't have the death ticker from COVID. Like they
took that off. Yeah, sorry.
Well, no. So I just want to say, like, I have a friend that was he went off the rails on the right anti-COVID, which, happens to some people. He was a normal person, but he just went off the rails, anti-COVID, conspiracy, masks are bad, vaccines awful, whatever. Have your thoughts on that. But he was right about one thing. It's like the death ticker went away as soon as Biden won.
Yep.
And
it absolutely did.
And guys like him that are going to lean to the right now because they're anti-COVID are going to have plenty of actual valid fodder. Yeah. Valid ammunition. See, you have your words. Those are better than mine.
I was thinking about it the whole time. That's all I've been thinking about. My eyes are glazing it.
But they have valid reasons to say, like, look at all the bullshit they're doing now but see, it's if you don't hold a purely anti-establishment perspective and you look at these issues on their own, they want us to get back to work. They want us to get COVID. They don't give a shit about us. They don't give a shit about us.
It's not that COVID doesn't exist.
Should be the deeper thought on all this, in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now all of a sudden, you're allowed to go without a mask, and they're talking about natural immunity being just as effective if you have one dose of a vaccine and you've gotten COVID, that should count as being fully vaccinated. And, a month ago, they were canceling Joe Rogan for talking about things like this, right? Which, again, like, I never even watched Joe Rogan, but the outcry and the outrage against anybody who is at all anti-vax, anti-mask because of the numbers, and they were killing us and preventing us to get back from normal. And then now all of a sudden they've just stripped us of all of that. Everybody get back to normal. And somehow that's fine just because it's been sanctioned by the people in power.
And we know that the bad things are coming. Like the idea that they had their moment, mission accomplished moment, like, a year ago, but they just rebooted it this week, at the State of the Union, so now it's mission accomplished. And BA2 is already here. It's taken over. It's going to fuck us up. It's clear as all day. It's the same shit it always was. We are nowhere closer to solving things. But so let's
take a look at what we
I just want to jump into this. So Biden's plan of opening up the country and like declaring war on COVID, we won mostly the first round, or whatever however you want to phrase it. Even his shitty plan was based on all this treatment medicine by Pfizer, buying all this stuff so that the country's ready to treat people who get whatever the next version is, which we don't even know it's going to work on the next version.
Right.
But it was predicated on 10 million doses, and we have 835,000. So it's even his bullshit plan is bullshit. Yeah.
And also, but by the way, like 10 million, we have 330 million people in our country. Like, what, even 10 million is ridiculous. Yeah. And then just a reminder, because, we are a country with no guaranteed health care for our people. when they are relegating us to all get COVID, and what, a third of the people who get COVID suffer from long COVID, right? They have issues that continue well beyond when they're considered no longer contagious or,
Right.
having the virus. We have excess deaths in this country compared to, look at all the other developed or whatever they call countries and other wealthy countries. Excess deaths, 63% more deaths in the US because of our horrifying lack of healthcare.
Yeah. So, in a sense, Biden is right that a horrible war is going to help his presidency, because focusing on this is actually probably worse. But I don't want to pivot to talk about Ukraine, but like, Ukraine is going to look incredibly awful to all these people that have been trained by MSNBC and CNN to think that we could win this war somehow.
Right.
We can just support them enough. Like, their country's going to get decimated, like absolutely destroyed. So there's the misinformation is killing people in Ukraine and here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I did derail us. And I
No,
apologize.
it's okay. It's okay. I'm just going to try and get us back a little bit, only because
Good luck. Good luck.
the life expectancy in our country versus other countries is, compared to what we actually spend per capita, as we all know, is, woefully inadequate.
Right. But so that, like, we know that.
Right.
But the public doesn't know that. I mean, the public knows our healthcare system is fucked and they support changing our healthcare system. But if that chart was shown on CNN and MSNBC, every 2 weeks or something, it would change the world.
I mean, I really feel like when they talk about how much is it going to cost, like when we just showed that, $15 billion had been stripped from the new spending package. That was money that was going to go towards testing and treatment for COVID. It's being taken away from that, and it's going towards Ukraine. So, every time they ask, how are we going to pay for it? Or they talk about incrementalism, or don't let the good enough be, or whatever, the perfect be the enemy of the good. And, we're always asked to wait and to just vote one more congressperson in there. And just, it's just the arc of history is, or the arc of justice and all that kind of stuff. But, when they want money for war, it happens in an instant. There's no long conversations about it. They are not stripping things from bills. They just, billions of dollars to go to war. Always.
They do. And the idea now on one front is that focusing on this stuff is going to help Joe Biden, and it's going to get more Dems in, and we're going to stop fascism, because we're, that's why we can't talk about the reality in the situation. Because if we talk about the reality of Ukraine, it might incrementally help people not support the war, which will incrementally help Republicans, which will stop us as Democrats from preventing fascism.
What a mess. All right, let's spin the wheel.
Do we spin it?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, we know, I don't even know how many people died yesterday, but like, COVID's not over, and mask up. I don't know. All right. Yeah, let's spin it.
I will. As soon as I just need to scroll down.
And make sure that we're not missing any great things that we pulled.
Oh, there's shot, war games, good versus evil. Oh, let's see. What are you rooting for here? I'm just curious.
I guess good versus evil.
Yeah, baby.
I'm over it. I want the shot so badly. Look at that. Look at that.
Oh, it's rigged. The game is rigged. Oh my God, this is number 5.
I wish it was rigged.
I don't even know.
Doesn't matter. We have 50-50. We are definitely talking politics instead of doing a shot next. So that's good. Cheers. All right, here we go.
Yeah, baby.
You're kind of the same topic. Although
they are kind of the same topic. I mean, it does all just kind of bleed into each other. Yes, Pat, you are really. Oops, Moscow Mule. Wait, we keep
Oh,
overdoing each other.
we
I was
can't
doing.
drink those now.
I
Oh,
love
sorry.
Moscow Mules. Um,
I do too.
Pat, I think you and I keep trying to show the one that says that you're really funny, but we keep canceling each other out because we're on different computers. You're I'm
Well, it's
slobbering
complicated
on
because
my
I was
keyboard.
typing that on my alternate account. So it's tricky. It's
Was
very
that
tricky.
Liz Smith did that? Pete
Yeah.
Pete
Oh my
Buttigieg's
God.
person.
Oh,
Like
so we gave Buttigieg a pass. We didn't even talk about him today or yesterday. I don't know, whatever day. His answer to all this is buy electric cars, which great.
oh my
But
God.
like, I don't know if you know, but they start at $50,000-$60,000, and that's not a solution for people who have to hurry back to work.
I mean, again, like why this could be a huge moonshot for infrastructure and public transit and walking and biking and getting us to where we need to be instead of creating more cars, more rubber tires, more and as you said, that people can't even afford. So like, I mean, just the lack of vision and the adherence, full-throated adherence, no matter what, to making sure that their wealthy pals just keep raking in money. I mean, that's just the bottom line. We will destroy the environment, we'll destroy our country, we'll destroy other people's countries, just to make sure that,
But
yeah.
have you considered this image? This
Yeah.
right here, superhero Zelensky.
Yeah. Captain America.
So I just want people to know, like, when we're about to rip on Zelensky a little bit, probably here, I'm guessing. But
Yeah.
the point isn't that it's not that he's evil. It's just that the U.S. is presenting him and this Ukrainian fight as this black and white issue every
Right.
time. They're not giving people the even possibility of coming to their own conclusion.
Right.
Like, you are not allowed to talk about any of this.
Well, because you just think about all the other conflicts that are happening. Sorry. Yeah. The
This one
Zelensky thirst.
blocks everyone out. But
Yeah.
when they're trying to promote hunger for Zelensky, like,
Yeah.
they're just thirsty for his ass.
It's rumors of a.
Did you just do that?
No, I had nothing to do with that.
Because the thing is if they presented this in an honest way, there would be a little bit more ambivalence. And yes, of course, what Russia's doing is horrible, but there wouldn't be this good versus evil sort of cry out, which is only galvanizing people to be sort of hungry for war and revenge. And what that does is it just prolongs the devastation and it prohibits us thinking creatively or logically on how we provide the off ramps to get to peace. Because in the end, at some point, the war has to end. Although, I mean, of course, the military industrial complex is really hoping it never does. But like, the reason that they present it this way is to make it this sort of, just war that has to happen. Meanwhile, there are wars happening all over the world that nobody cares about. They never talk about those.
But meanwhile, this is an actual unwinnable war. So even aesthetically, on some level, for Democrats' popularity in the midterms or whatever, it's going to, as soon as all this is exposed a little bit, like, people are being brainwashed to think we can win this war.
Yeah.
Which we can't win this war. We can't.
That's right.
We can wreck the Russian economy and hurt all the people in Russia. That's great. I mean, it's not great, but like, that won't lead to something
Peace.
Good for the
Yeah.
people in Ukraine. For
Right.
the people in Ukraine, that leads to them getting annihilated by, air forces, basically.
That's right.
But so as far as Zelensky goes, our country has never addressed anything in the Pandora Papers. It's been a non-issue entirely in the media.
That's
And Zelensky is heavily tied up in corrupt issues with laundering money through the Pandora Papers.
Yeah, sorry, with offshore accounts, and I think he's got over $1 billion just himself, right? So like, he came in on he was the anti-corruption candidate. And not a lot has changed in terms of the oligarchy in Ukraine. And I think, again, like, this does not mean that Ukraine should be invaded by Russia. That's not what I'm saying. But I think if there were more nuance and honesty about this situation, there would be less fervor for war.
Yeah, and that's the most dangerous thing, in my opinion. You've got these people in the streets calling for a no-fly zone over Ukraine, which a no-fly zone needs to be backed up by force. You can't just
it's not a protective shield.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, you're banned, so don't fly over us. It's okay. So now they flew over us. What do we do?
Yeah, that is active war.
You're frozen again. But this is the same criticism that we had over Hillary. Hillary was calling for a no-fly zone.
That's right, over Syria.
Yeah, and it was wrong then.
Am I still canceled?
You're not. I uncanceled you. I pushed the button.
Here.
I have a button that just shuts your opinion
down. It makes me lag
because I want to talk. I just really want to talk. I don't.
Yeah. So just to go back to those Pandora Papers, everybody in Zelensky's closest circle is involved in this money laundering and offshore accounts. So that's one thing that I think people really need to understand. In addition, they're using the fact that Zelensky is Jewish as a shield for these far-right groups that are empowered in Ukraine. I mean, they are, and I know they're far-right groups also in Russia, but I don't feel comfortable about this. Children warrior Nazis. Like, to me, that's not where I want my tax dollars to go. So I think,
but this week we've seen a lot of don't talk about.
That's just don't talk about Putin talking points. If you talk about it,
like every country has Ukrainian. Every country has Nazis. Ukrainian Nazis are just a small part of Ukrainian warfare. We're getting a lot of that stuff, which how are we going to look back on what happens in Ukraine 2 years from now, even when we armed all these Nazis and Russia obliterated the whole place, and now Ukraine itself is being overrun by the Nazi element we armed.
Right. And also that's called from far-right groups across Europe and even the US, right? Like the Proud Boys, the January 6th insurrectionists, they have ties to that Azov battalion. So the CIA gets money from Congress. They fund and train far-right people abroad who then are, working in concert with far-right groups around the world, including in the US. And then they come back to Congress and say, we have a far-right problem inside of our country. So it's just this self-fulfilling funding mechanism, which could get us all killed.
The good news is that it's not affecting. Well, I mean, the bad news apparently is that now it's affecting Europeans. So here's a clip.
There's rumors of a thermobaric bomb, which is a sort of vacuum bomb, which, to be fair, the US has used before in Afghanistan, but the idea of it being used in Europe is stomach churning. And
so it's
one thing when
cool.
you use it for brown people.
Yeah, using this awful bomb that sucks the oxygen out of your lungs is bad. Agreed. But I didn't care until it was used on Europeans. Literally, shown on air, no big deal, no counter argument to it. That's great.
Here's our counter. This hero of
Claire?
A woman.
Yes,
yeah, I
Claire
love
Daly.
her. All right, where is it? Oh my God.
I got it. Let it go. I got it.
There's no doubt about it. We're living in times of catastrophic crisis where the lives of innocent civilians are sacrificed in the wars of their masters. Yes, in Ukraine, but not only. Since the last plenary, tens of thousands of Afghani citizens have been forced to flee in search of food and safety. 5 million children face famine and agonising and painful death. A 500% increase in child marriages and children being sold just so they can survive, and not a mention of it. Not here, not anywhere. No wall-to-wall TV coverage, no emergency humanitarian response, no special plenaries, not even a mention in this plenary. No Afghani delegations and no statements. My God, they must be wondering, what makes their humanitarian crisis so unimportant? Is it the colour of their skin? Is it that they're not white, they're not European, that their problems come from a US gun or a US invasion? Is it that the decision to rob their country's wealth was taken by a despotic US president rather than a Russian one? Because, my God, all wars are evil and all victims deserve support, and until we get on that page, we have no credibility whatsoever.
Yeah. Wow. And the despotic US president she's talking about oh God.
She killed me. I might die.
Is Biden, who stole, what is it, like $6.5 billion from Afghan, or three and a half, I don't know, $3 billion, $3.5 billion from Afghan just recently to give to 9/11 families. I mean, like, he just stole their money, their retirement, their bank accounts. And there was all this talk when we left Afghanistan, which, you know, wasn't done in a great way, of course. But what did they think was happening for the 20 years that we were here before? But that was the one time the media turned on Biden, was to talk about our exit from there. And then there was all this talk about, what are we doing and how are we just leaving all those women, you know, behind to fend for themselves? Nobody talks about the fact that we've just stolen their wealth. Anyway, she's great. Oh, wow. Yeah. I see we just got 17 comments. I need to read through everything.
Read them all.
Yeah, goosebumps. You know,
no, she crushed it. And
yeah,
the balls to actually say what everyone informed on the issue is thinking. Like,
yep.
Holy fuck, the hypocrisy of the United States is off the charts. So we have more hypocrisy. Should we show some of the hypocrisy?
Yeah.
I'm going to start with
But remember, the Russians invaded Afghanistan back in 1980. And although no country went in, they certainly had a lot of countries supplying arms and advice, and even some advisors to those who were recruited to fight Russia. It didn't end well for the Russians. There were other unintended consequences, as we know. But the fact is that a very motivated and then funded and armed insurgency basically drove the Russians out of Afghanistan. Obviously, the similarities are not ones that you should bank on, because the terrain, the development in urban areas, et cetera, is so different. But I think that is the model that people are now looking toward. And
that's the model. The similarities end there. We are funding a far-right Nazi battalion. And if history is any indication, looking at what Osama bin Laden did after we financed him in Afghanistan, we should probably be fucking worried right now.
Oh, counterpoint. You should not talk about this.
Everyone has a Nazi problem. Everyone has a Nazi problem.
Everyone has a Nazi problem. It's not that big of a deal. And have you heard Condi Rice? If you listen to Condi, and it'll change your mind.
Argued that when you invade a sovereign nation, that is a war crime. I mean, I think we're at just a real basic point there.
Well, I'd agree. It is certainly against every principle of international law and international order, and that's why throwing the book at them now in terms of economic sanctions and punishments is also a part of it. And I think the world is there. Certainly NATO is there. He's managed to unite NATO in ways that I didn't think I would ever see again after the end of the Cold War.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So invading another country is a war crime. clearly, and all the parallels to us in Iraq are off the charts. Afghanistan
like
off the charts.
one person to tell me, give me any way that Biden is different from George W. Bush. I would just love for anybody to give me one aspect that makes him, that differentiates him.
Well, I sorry, I hate to disappoint you. I'm going to do it right here.
All right.
George Bush was given millions of dollars to find oil in Texas and couldn't do it. Biden never got millions of dollars to find oil in Texas and failed. So he would have failed, though. We agree, but yeah.
Yeah. So I don't even remember if we were on War Games or Good versus Evil, but
it's a mix.
It's a mix. This was one of my favorite things with the Zelensky stuff. And then I know we're late and we have to go, but because the jerks who are going to support Biden and are arming Nazis can never let 2016 or 2020 die. What type of Jew are you? Are you
hero Jew
or a Nebuchadnezzar Jew? That's the point of this. And that's from Jubilong. And
Jubilong?
that just Jubilong. Yeah. Kind of just clinched it for me. Yeah, unfortunately there are no real good guys here apart from citizens who are having their lives just demolished by the powerful oligarchs.
I think that's the big point is like people need to realize that you can support Ukraine as I do. I would love for Ukraine to exist and not get bombarded by Russia, invaded by Russia, bombed by Russia. But the US has made that possibility more likely, and we're seeing it. And we've known this for years. Like, this is not, people need to realize this was the expected outcome of the UN's position in Ukraine.
That's right.
For years. Let's show the Chomsky
let's show Mearsheimer because he really puts it all there, right? Like he's been talking about this for years and there was a different way we could have come out of this.
But I actually
sorry.
No, I was just going to say the point is this was talked about forever. This was the counter prevailing position, which is right now
on both sides of the aisle, right? Like these were,
yeah, they need to realize this was right. Chomsky was right. Mearsheimer was right.
Yeah,
like this is clearly the impact of NATO expanding to the borders of Russia.
Right.
But I actually think that what's going on here is that the West is leading Ukraine down the primrose path. And the end result is that Ukraine is going to get wrecked. And I believe that the policy that I'm advocating, which is neutralizing Ukraine and then building it up economically and getting it out of the competition between Russia on one side and NATO on the other side, is the best thing that could happen to the Ukrainians. What we're doing is encouraging the Ukrainians to play tough with the Russians. We're encouraging the Ukrainians to think that they will ultimately become part of the West because we will ultimately defeat Putin and we will ultimately get our way. Time is on our side. And of course, the Ukrainians are playing along with this. And the Ukrainians are almost completely unwilling to compromise with the Russians and instead want to pursue a hardline policy. Well, as I said to you before, if they do that, the end result is that their country is going to be wrecked. And what we're doing is, in effect, encouraging that outcome. I think it would make much more sense for us to work to create a neutral Ukraine. It would be in our interest to bury this crisis as quickly as possible. It certainly would be in Russia's interest to do so. And most importantly, it would be in Ukraine's interest to put an end to the crisis. Thank you.
I mean, the only people whose interest it's not in is the Pentagon and the defense contractors. So they do not make money by advocating for peace.
Yeah. I mean, all I can add to that is we are fucked, and that's awful. That's awful.
But the good news is this
but
guy.
they saw this coming years ago.
Yeah.
We have like 3 clips of Chomsky calling for it.
Yep.
Which we're not going to show because I don't want to bore you. It's kind of the same thing. And
It's all
Chomsky's kind of boring,
yeah.
but he called it out exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What was going to happen 10 years ago if we keep pursuing this aggressive stance, expanding NATO into Ukraine.
And there's a way to support Ukrainians without advocating for war, which would be much better for them, which would be to invest in their country and help them grow and prosper and not constantly poke the bear and push for war.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, but I'm compelled. I want to show one of the Chomsky clips.
Okay.
I have to. I feel like I have to.
Do you see where it is?
I have no idea where it is.
All right. I'm going to do it. And then it's 6:11. So I'm just giving us
then we'll tap out. We'll tap out.
All right. Here's
Chomsky. Chomsky might put you to sleep. So
the idea that Ukraine might join a Western military alliance would be quite unacceptable to any Russian leader. This goes back to 1990 when the Soviet Union collapsed. There was a question as to what would happen with NATO. Gorbachev agreed to allow Germany to be unified and to join NATO. It's a pretty remarkable concession, with a quid pro quo that NATO would not expand 1 inch to the east. That was the phrase that was used.
So Russia has been provoked.
Well, what happened? NATO instantly moved to East Germany. Then Clinton came along, expanded NATO right to the borders of Russia. Now there are the new Ukrainian government, the government after the overthrow of the preceding one, the parliament voted, I think, 300 to 8 or something like that, to move to join NATO.
Which you can understand why they would want to join NATO. You can see why Petro Poroshenko's government would probably see that it's protecting his country.
No, it's not protect. Crimea was taken away after the overthrow of the government, right? And he's not protecting Ukraine, is threatening Ukraine with major war. That's not protection. The point is, this is a serious strategic threat to Russia, which any Russian leader would have to react to. That's well understood.
Those pesky facts getting in the way.
Yeah, well, I think that's the most important point, is that it's not Putin losing his mind. Like, this was a global political issue that people recognized 10 years ago. Like, taking these steps, and wait, we have Biden saying, so we have to show Biden. We have to show Biden.
All right.
God damn it. I know Lila wants to go home to her privileged life.
Go home. It's like 2 steps away.
You are home.
Wait, do you have
Let's show
it?
that. Do we have?
I think the one place where the greatest consternation would be caused in the short term for admission, having nothing to do with the merit and preparedness of the country to come in, would be to admit the Baltic states now in terms of NATO-Russian, U.S.-Russian relations. And if there was ever anything that was going to tip the balance, were it to be tipped in terms of a vigorous and hostile reaction, I don't mean military, in Russia, it would be that. So the way I look at the calculus here is
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, everybody knew it, and nobody wants peace because it's always just follow the money. That's always the thing. Follow the money.
Follow the money with gas and oil and donors, and then also Biden losing historically right now, like trying to save things. I mean, the consultant class is so stupid. The people that advise all these Democrats for how to win are so stupid. And it's by design, because they are funded by the donors, the corporations, everyone who wants profits. Like nobody wanting peace is like giving Biden $10 million.
Yeah, there's no think tank.
There's none of that exists. It's
Yeah.
it's the worst people, and they're responding to the worst people. And Biden is part of the worst people. So that's my final.
I just like to leave everybody on this very quick quote from Biden yesterday, just so we all know we're in really good hands. This was Biden yesterday.
The three congressmen you have here, two of them look like they really could and did play ball, and the other one looks like he could bomb you.
Happy Wednesday, everybody.
One of those guys could bomb you.
That's our commander in chief. Good hands.
Wow,
we're in crazy times. I am working hard at killing my liver and trying to sleep through the night. I love my time that I get to spend with all of you. Thank you for showing up every week.
Cheers for being here.
Cheers to everybody.
I just want to say, still, our only power is supporting unions and strikes and pushing back where we can. So don't support Dems. I mean, if there's a good Dem and you want to support them, go for it. But our real power is supporting strikes and
unions.
Outside action. Whatever. You and your big words with unions. God damn it.
All right. Cheers, everybody. Keep punching
Cheers.
up. Bye.